reframe what you say, and we record it in such a way that it becomes an...
There's anger, sadness, and many unresolved questions tonight in a small town in Louisiana. A 73-year-old black man is dead, shot by 2 white cops. And there are allegations those cops planted a gun near his body. It happened last month in Homer, Louisiana, population 3,800. And tonight, members of the community are at a town hall meeting demanding answers. Our own Sean Calebs has the story. Sean, exactly what is going on in Homer, Louisiana?
Well, I think it's safe to say people in that small town want answers. Racial tensions, I think it's safe to say, could not be more elevated. For those of you who think you know Louisiana because you know what New Orleans is like, well, let me explain. The northern part of the state is far different. The northern part, very Christian conservative. And while many blacks in the southern part of the state, New Orleans, Lafayette, have achieved a great deal of political clout and power, many African Americans in the northern part of the state believe they are still fighting for that recognition and fighting for that piece of the pie. And that certainly is playing a part in all of this tension. It's showing no signs of cooling down anytime soon. And also, this shooting has triggered a massive investigation. This is 73-year-old Bernard+Monroe. 3 weeks ago, on February 20th, it was late afternoon. He was barbecuing for his family, their kids, and his grandkids. 2 white police officers pulled up to the house. They'd come to question Monroe's son, Sean. Sean has a long record of arrests and convictions, but he has no outstanding warrants, so it's unclear why police wanted to see him on that day. Witnesses say when Sean saw the officers, he ran into the house. One of the officers, who'd only been on the Homer police force for a few weeks, chased him inside. What happened next is murky at best. This woman, Denise Nicholson, Sean's sister-in-law, was there. She says 73-year-old Bernard+Monroe walked toward the house to see what was going on.
So he had his hands, up like this right here. And so the police officer just turned around and just started shooting. Then after he done shot about 7 or 8 times, he gonna holler, he got a gun. Ain't nobody seen no gun yet.
Monroe had throat cancer, and it had destroyed his voice. The police department says Monroe was holding a loaded gun when he was shot. The officer who killed him is currently on paid leave. Witnesses that day tell a different story. They insist it was a sports drink bottle, and that after the shooting, the other police officer took a gun Monroe kept on his front porch and placed it near the dying man. I saw the officer pick up the gun off the porch. I said, "What are you doing?" The cop told me, "Shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about." As allegations of a police cover-up spread, tensions have only grown worse.
The only thing we're asking for is justice and for the truth to be known.
3 investigations are underway. The FBI, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the Louisiana State Police are all involved. Law enforcement sources tell me there are a huge number of investigators from as far away as New Orleans and Lafayette. They're taking this investigation seriously.
It's a loss for the whole community. Everybody's lost,
Hey, Sean, a lot of things happening down there in terms of investigations. I mean, there are a lot of folks investigating this. Tell us about that.
Well, I talked with Donald Washington. He's the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of the state, and he said basically officers from the FBI as well as the Justice Department, state police, have all flocked to that area. And what they're doing right now is canvassing witnesses. They want to talk to as many witnesses as they can to get the story as clearly as possible. And Washington also said it's basically a two-pronged investigation. One, they're trying to get all the information, but secondly, it's almost a community relations effort, too. He said he's trying to keep a lid on the rhetoric and all the rumors that have been flying around.
Sean, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch, and we'll be checking back with you for more details. Right now, folks, I want to bring in Chicago Tribune reporter Howard Witt, who's been following this story from the beginning, as well as Denise Nicholson. You saw her in that report, Sean's report. She's a member of Bernard+Monroe's family and a witness to the shooting, and she's at the community meeting in Homer tonight. I want to start off with you, Howard. This is, you've been covering a lot of different stories raised for the last several years. And this particular story is interesting. You talked to a lot of different witnesses, and what have they been saying that is unique about this story?
Well, Roland, they really tell stories that seem to have the ring of truth. I mean, obviously the authorities are going to have to sort through all of this, but they all tell stories, relate accounts of this that have details that you wouldn't expect people would be able to make up.
Such as?
Well, for instance, one of the witnesses said that he saw the police officer take a latex glove and instead of putting it on his hand, drape it over his hand in order to pick up this gun with his fingers and place it next to Mr. Monroe, and he said it was a blue latex glove. Well, when I talked to the local police chief there a few hours later, the police chief, and I told the police chief what this witness had said, the police chief said, oh yeah, well, what color did he say the glove was? And I said, well, the witness said the glove was blue. And the police chief, you could kind of see the blood drain from his face, and he said, that's right, we have blue police issue latex gloves. So there's details like that that just have the ring of truth.
Denise, I want to go to you. You said when the police drove by at first, everything seemed okay, but what happened after that?
Okay, well, initially we was all sitting out. We was all sitting out laughing and talking, and I walked up to the truck that Sean was in, and I had got a text message on my phone, so I told Sean to look at the text message. So as I was talking to Sean, I looked up and saw 2 police cars coming down the road. We were used to them patrolling through there, so we didn't think nothing was up. The police came down the road. As they was coming down the road, I had asked Sean to move on down so that he could, the police could go on through. Well, they stopped. And when they stopped and talked to my niece and asked my niece what happened to, the first officer stopped and asked my niece what happened to her leg. So when he asked her what happened to her leg, she told him she had had surgery on her leg. So in the midst of him asking her that, he asked her, did she break her leg? And she said, no, I just had surgery on my leg about a month ago. So Mr. Ben, which is...
So you had officers who were talking to you and the family, but then all of a sudden, when they began to approach the porch, at what point did Mr. Monroe get shot, and did you actually witness him being shot?
Yes, I saw him get shot, but it was like 2 or 3 minutes before that even happened, because after the conversation was about a minute or a minute and a half about her leg. Mr. Ben got up out of his chair. He started flapping his arms, and the officer asked, what did he do? So I turned around and looked at him, and I told them that he was saying that she was chickening around. So after that little part went through, the officer told us, y'all have a nice day. They pulled on down the road, but when they emerged on down the road slowly, they came to a stop. So my niece asked, what are they stopping for? And we all said, we don't know. I don't know what they're stopping for.
So at that particular point, the cops stopped in front of his home, and then that's when this whole altercation came about, and then Mr. Monroe was shot, and they also claimed that he had a gun. Now, Howard, what about that whole issue in terms of they're saying that he kept a loaded gun on the porch?
Yeah, well, the family members said that this elderly man was an avid hunter, and he actually kept a loaded handgun on his porch all the time and for protection. It's kind of a rough neighborhood where he lives. I asked the family when they told me that, I said, you know, gosh, that seems kind of strange. I mean, you had a family party, you had children running around in the yard. Isn't that dangerous to keep a loaded gun on the porch? And they said, well, it was his practice and his routine, and all the children were trained and learned not to go near that gun. But that's the gun that's in question, because all the witnesses say that he wasn't holding that gun, he wasn't anywhere near that gun, but the police would have been able to see that gun sitting on the porch, and that's the gun that the witnesses are alleging that the police then picked up after Mr. Monroe was shot and placed next to his body.
Howard, hold tight 1 second. I'm going to come back to you because we'll talk to the mayor of the city when we come back. Denise, I know you have to get back to the meeting. We certainly appreciate you participating tonight. Thank you so very much. Folks, we've got much more on this particular story as we talk with people at the town meeting in Homer, including the mayor, as I said. Also